Welcome to the Flawed Workshop podcast with me, your host, Nancy Art Music.
And me, your co-host, Alex Roberts.
This week we're joined by Izzy from Izerbelz Art. We talk a little bit about using your talents to help a charitable cause, mental health, quitting your job, doing an illustration degree, and getting a little bit political with your art. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, Izzy. Thank you very much for joining us on the Flawed Workshop podcast. It's absolutely lovely to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your art.
My art is generally, so it's different every day. So it kind of depends on how I'm feeling, how I'm like, I don't know how much energy I've got really, as to what I create. I mean, sometimes I'll go days and days without creating, and then sometimes I'll make tons of stuff every day for like 2 weeks. So it goes from sort of simple, cutesy fruit illustrations and like little cute stickers and things like that to body positivity and the occasional anti-government stuff. It started off just as something that I enjoyed doing back in 2016, I think it was. I was like, I really want to learn how to draw faces, because for a really long time I used to draw hair and heads and necks and shoulders, but they'd always be faceless. So I was a bit like terrified, I would say, of actually taking the leap and giving someone a nose, eyes, and a mouth. Like I draw them all separately on a piece of paper, but never actually like all together as one. So I was like, I'm going to take the leap and teach myself.
Yep, I absolutely know that feeling, because proportions are scary and weird when you actually study them.
That's why you need to take a leaf out of Picasso's book and sort of just do your own thing and make it an art style. And then,
just tell everyone, well, this is how I do it, and you're just going to have to learn to like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be totally honest, during the time that I was teaching myself, I never actually went out and sort of looked at proper drawing books and proper proportion stuff, because I was always like, I don't have the brain for that. I mean, whenever I look at the books where it teaches you how to do all the different, this should be this long and this should be this much width from this part of the face and all that, it confuses me.
Yep.
Anything that even remotely sounds like maths, and I'm just like, I'm going to go have a nap instead. I can't, my brain doesn't function like that. My brain functions from looking at a reference and going, okay, well, that nose sits there and I need to do about an inch or whatever, and then this
in your brain, and everybody has seen people before, so I think inherently in the back of our minds we all kind of know proportions, or we at least know what should look right, and that's why the uncanny valley exists and faces look a little bit strange sometimes. But when you learn it in a book and you see, like, the torso is a third of the entire body, which is this, and which is 1/5 and 20% of that, and it's just wild.
The one for me is I'm not a visual artist, really. I don't have a great amount of drawing skills, but I can remember when I was much younger, a couple of my really, really good friends are massively into art and things. So I was like, well, I'm going to do that because my friends are doing it, and of course I want to be cool and join in with my friends. And going through the thing you were saying about where you're measuring out the proportions and it all comes across as ratios and maths, didn't work for me either. And I ended up finding a book that was how to draw Simpsons characters, and it broke everything down into individual shapes. So it was like, those wooden mannequin sort of reference statues that you can get. It was like that, but then going a step further, where it was quite literally turning it into a triangle and 3 bowling balls.
Yep.
And which worked really well for me at the time, but of course I can then only draw cartoon features and faces. So there's no realism, there's no actual proportion, because it turns out Homer doesn't look like a real person.
There's definitely some skill though in drawing. I have never been able to draw a Simpson that looks like a Simpson. It always looks like a badly drawn version of a Simpson. Like there's no way that I can physically make those shapes correct.
The Simpsons on hard times,
when they had to sack all the illustrators and bring in new cheap ones.
But you've definitely made a lot of progress. I'm just scrolling through your Instagram now, and it's gorgeous. Did it take you a long time to kind of master that a little bit?
To the point that I was confident with it, yeah. I mean, I definitely started out absolutely completely amateur. I did art all the way through school, and I was always one of those people who'd always have like my art sketchbook in my bag, no matter what day it was, because I just liked it when people would be like, oh, let me look through it, and everyone would be like, oh, you're so amazing, it's so great. And now I look back at it and I'm like, how did anyone think that this was good?
Yeah, well, it's that whole thing of people kind of exaggerating a little bit about their own lack of art skills when they say, I can barely draw a stick person. It's like, yes, you can.
Oh, I can't do that. And then you pull out a sort of a 15-page portfolio of, Renaissance artwork that you've been working on.
I'm not even that good.
but what you were just saying about people thinking, it's like, oh, why do people think that I'm so much better than that? It's like, well, someone that is an expert is only the person that knows just a little bit more than you.
Yeah,
that's how I've always viewed it. When people look at my things and go, oh, this is so good, and I'm looking at it thinking, really? Wow. Okay, I guess I'm just mildly better at this than you are, so in your eyes I'm amazing.
I think the thing is as well, obviously, is like you look at it, and I suppose at what point you, because I thought I was really good, and I suppose at that point in your progress, if you're better than you were yesterday, then you can go, oh, do you know what? That's my best piece so far. But I was up at my parents' just this weekend, just gone for the first time since August. And I've been like desperate to get up there because I've really, like, it's kind of embarrassing really, but I've been really wanting to post a TikTok about my GCSE artwork.
Yep.
So whilst I was there, I was like going through all the cupboards because my mum has all of my sketchbooks from GCSE, from A level and from university, just in a cupboard in my old bedroom, which is now her craft room.
Nice.
And I know she's just replaced me completely.
Oh, creativity runs in the family then. Yeah.
Yes, my mum is definitely one of those people who can do anything. She's my. I very much, if I'm doing a drawing and I'm not sure if I like it, I'll send it to mum and say, "What do you think? What can I change?" And she'll send back like a list of notes.
Wow.
Like I always know that I've got to a point that's like really good if I send her something and she's like, there's nothing I can tell you to improve that. It's really good. And I'm like, and it's just this weird feeling where I'm like, my mum approves of me. Not that she ever didn't, but.
Oh, did she, what was her feedback with the charity print that you did? Because it's probably the one that stands out the most out of all your artwork and to me, and it's just gorgeous. And I love the message. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that is out of everything I've done so far. It was something I was thinking of doing for a very, very long time. Basically, the push from just kind of doing art for myself to being where I am now came last year. At the start of last year, I decided I was doing pet portraits anyway for every now and then, and mainly for Christmas presents for friends and family, things like that. And I started offering them at work at my old job, because they did like a pound for pound matching scheme. So obviously every pound you raised, they would then give exactly the same amount to the charity too. So I started doing pet commissions for Mind. So I was offering very cheap. I mean, they were like £15 for an A4, like hand-drawn pro marker portrait. So, I wasn't like really charging a lot, and it went really, really well in the end. By the end of last year, I think I raised £365 from it, and then obviously plus gift aid and the other one, the pound for pound, it was about 890 or something like that.
That's awesome.
It was quite a lot of money. So obviously I was like, that felt really good, because I didn't really put myself out too much because it was stuff I was doing anyway. I want to then continue that. So every single year, what I want to do going forward, assuming that it carries on being successful, is I want to create something that I can then sell and give all profits to charity. So there'll always be like at least one print in my shop that it's not just 10%. It's literally, apart from postage and Etsy fees, every single penny from that sale will go to that charity. So this print is obviously a very special print. It was something I kind of wanted to do towards the end of last year, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I didn't know what I wanted it to be, because with it being for an ovarian cancer charity, I didn't know whether to go a little bit obvious, a lot obvious.
Make it really better.
And yeah, I mean, obviously with this, it was very much like, this is what it is. It's, it's raising awareness for this charity that I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's quite local to the area where my aunt, who this whole thing is dedicated to, or in memory of, lived. She was the Dianne Oxberry Trust. Dianne Oxberry was a local weather presenter. I would have to fact check, because I'm not 100% sure exactly where she presented. But she basically found out she had ovarian cancer, and it was a very quick turnaround from when she found out to when she passed away. So obviously it really affected my aunt when it happened, because she was sort of going through it at the time. And then it was the charity that my uncle picked when my aunt passed away for the donations. Well, obviously we couldn't have the funeral that I think ideally we would have wanted to have. So they basically just said, anyone who can donate, please donate to the Dianne Oxberry Trust. So it was just sort of a continuation of that, really.
Well, I think it's absolutely it's really truly lovely when people use their talents to basically donate not only their talent to a charity and but all the actual donations, that like all the things that could help. That's really wonderful. So I really admire that about you and
thank you.
Your work. It's just it's really a lovely aspect of kind of being able to do something creative and encourage people to basically learn about something like that, because your work with Mind and the pet portraits there's a whole big stigma about mental health, which is really unfortunate, because everybody, especially in that last year, has really experienced all these interesting feelings, some for the first time. And
it was really interesting with that, because obviously it was where I used to work. Every year we'd pick a different charity to sort of fundraise for, so pretty much all of the fundraising would be specifically for one kind of place. And obviously when we started, I was like, okay, Mine's been picked this year, this is great, this means a lot to me, I can go ahead and do this. And then obviously within 2 months, 3 months, we were all working from home and not seeing each other anymore. And obviously mental health became quite a big talking point. Actually one of the main reasons that I ended up quitting my job in the end was my own mental health. The start of last year, I didn't realise how important the fundraising would end up being. By the end of the year, obviously, when I was donating, they had all the stuff about how we were having a mental health crisis because of the pandemic and everything. And it really sort of hit home that I was like, I didn't know any of this was going to happen when I started doing this.
Yeah.
And obviously last year was just...
Last year was a year?
Strange. Last year felt like 5 minutes and also 20 years at the same time. It made no sense.
That was, to me, sort of comes across as that was you sort of dipping your toe into the water of pairing up with these different charitable causes. Is that now lit a spark where you're going to look at doing a sort of more or bigger and better? Is there anything more that you're looking to do with the charity side?
It would be quite interesting, I think, to actually research and look into actually maybe approaching charities in the future rather than just sort of doing it off my own back. But it's not something I've looked into yet. I'm not fully fledged yet. I haven't quite fully left the nest, so I'm still learning to fly, we'll call it.
This is actually one of the reasons that I wanted to invite you on the podcast, because you put on TikTok. Obviously, God, I love your TikToks. They're always so entertaining, and they're like a nice kind of window into you and your work and everything. Because you're kind of on this journey, and I've kind of watched it over TikTok over the last a couple weeks or so. It's really interesting to me that you've kind of made the leap, and that's something very scary for artists and anybody that does anything creative to do. How did you mentioned that decision was influenced by your mental health, but obviously you had your art to kind of spur you on and support you in that time. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's been really interesting, to be quite honest. It seems like it all sort of snowballed. Like it's like one day I was like, I'm going to start an Etsy, and then 6 months down the line, I'm like, I'm getting like orders every day now, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I hadn't worked since Christmas Eve. I basically logged off on Christmas Eve and had a little bit of a mental health crisis with all the things about not being able to travel. I was supposed to be traveling to see my parents, who live about 4.5 hours away from where I live. Obviously then we couldn't go, and I just sort of climbed into my hole and put the lid on and was like, I don't want to come out, I'm staying here.
Yeah, if I can't go anywhere else, then I'll stay here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then I just couldn't sort of get with it to go back to work. It was a on the phone customer facing role, and obviously sort of being constantly attached to a headset. Just if I felt like I needed to escape, I felt like I couldn't. So I was just kind of like stuck, and I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah,
that must have been draining.
Yeah, especially obviously with working from home. I never used to mind it when I had the social aspect of being in the centre and actually being able to talk to people. And then like as soon as I was at home, when I was in the bedroom, just sat in front of a computer screen, it just ruined me. Like I never stop talking. I'm a very sort of social. I like to talk to people and I like to have people around me. I do not like being on my own. So it really, really had that effect on me that I just couldn't function properly, really. And it kind of made me feel bad because I was like, I know I can do this. I've done this for years, but I don't want to do it. So I had a lot of time off because of it. And in that time, I realized that the one thing that made me feel good was drawing, making art and creating stuff. And so during the time, especially in the last sort of 3-4 months, I was basically every day just making art. I was drawing whatever I wanted and I was making new prints and I was designing key rings and started just basically snowballing all this stuff and making a big collection. And I was like, I've got loads of things now and this is like a proper shop. It's not just like I've got a couple of prints, do you want to buy them? It's like, I was actually getting sales, I was getting attention, which is always nice. And then I went back to work and I had a week of sort of just catching up on things that had changed. And then it was back on the phone. And I did 2 hours on the phone. The next day I called in sick. The day after that I called in sick. And the day after that I tried to work, but I just came back into the bedroom. I sat down and I just cried. And I was like, can't do this anymore. So at that point, I'd already sort of spoken to my manager and said, look, this isn't for me. I need to look for something else. Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, I have fully quit that job, but I have got a part-time job just to sort of keep the money coming in just as, just in case. But that's a nice job where it's just a delivery driver job. So I can just drive around in my car. I can sing along to Rasputin or whatever it is I might be listening to at the time. And I like it. So, but that's obviously just to kind of pay the bills.
It's really important the energy, like what you do in the day really require, like you need to kind of regulate that in order to actually do art stuff. Like when I was working in retail, I didn't realize how tiring that was. I enjoyed my job, but obviously it required quite a lot of energy. And when I got home, I couldn't even fathom getting into anything other than trying desperately to relax before I start my next shift. And so I really empathize with that.
I mean, it's like already I'm feeling the tired, like I am exhausted.
Is it a good exhausted from?
But it is, yeah. I mean, the day I officially handed in my notice, and it was I'm leaving now because I was off sick. So they were like, "There's no point in you working a notice because you're just not going to be here. So what's the point?" So it was literally I sort of sent my email and I said, "Okay, this is my last day. I'm off now. Ta-ta." That was essentially it.
I watched that, like the TikTok that you put up with you in your car being like, I just quit my job. And I was like, oh man, I was like excited and scared. I'm so like excited and scared for everybody that's in that position. We have two friends that are both writers and they've done something similar. And I'm hoping they're both going to be on the podcast as well later on. But oh man, it's so like, I'm so excited for everybody that's able to take that step.
One of the big conversation points that we always have is, how do you find and strike that balance between, obviously I need to make an income to support myself and live, but at the same time, I'm trying to either build myself as a brand and make my own product and portfolio and things. Would you mind sort of like just talking about what it was like to strike that balance? Because I imagine it wasn't the easiest thing in the world.
I'm still sort of trying to find it, to be quite honest, because I have to say, since I sort of started the part-time job, I haven't done as much of the art stuff, but that's because I'm still because I've got so much stock and stuff now. I'm like, stop making new things because you can't. You need to sell everything else first. But the other thing that did happen, which I think I also then mentioned on TikTok, the video after the one about quitting my job, the day I handed in my notice, I actually got accepted onto an illustration master's that I'd applied for Amazing. Several months before. And I didn't think I was going to. I did photography as a degree. So obviously I did an art degree, but it wasn't illustration. So I was like not very optimistic. Yeah. So I was like obviously incredibly excited when I got accepted. So obviously at the moment, in my head, the important thing for me is get as many hours as you can before you start, because that starts on the 1st of June. So obviously I got accepted on the 6th of April, starts on the 1st of June. So it's a bit of a quick turnaround, but I was like, make as much money as you can between now and then, just so you can relax once that starts. Because obviously, because I mean, I'm going to have, let's say 20 hours of working, 20 hours of masters a week. And then on top of that, need to find the balance to sort of obviously make my own stuff. And I think having the job and having the masters is going to help me with my own things, because I feel like my stuff will be an escape. My main worry, and it always has been about how sort of doing this as a job, is what if I lose the love for it because it becomes a job as opposed to something I want and like and need to do. So in a way, it's like I'm almost protecting that with bubble wrap made of part-time jobs and education and all that sort of thing. And I'm like, but I've got my nice little hobby just in the middle that I can just go to and say, okay, I'm going to sit up till 3 a.m. drawing whatever, and then I'm going to print it and people are going to buy it and I'm going to make everyone happy.
So I literally wrote a poem about this exact same thing called Thrill of the Chase, which was, I can still remember it. It was about 2 a.m. and I'm sat on the little single bed in my halls in my first year of uni. And it's just that panic of, oh, well, I wanted to be this creative, this writer and do all that sort of stuff. But now I'm doing a degree. Does that mean that I'm not doing it anymore? Does that? And it's not, it's not black and white, and it's not this immediate yes or no sort of lights on, lights off situation. And as you were just explaining about, it's, if you are in that situation where you are trying to strike the balance between your own self-sufficient art styles and making your own brand and business, as well as still working, you're not going to find the balance in a week. Or maybe even a month. It does take time and it does take work. It's
something that will come. It just so happens that everything just happened at once. It was like I quit my job, I got a new job, I got accepted onto the masters, I started getting more sales, which meant I was having to then sort orders out and take more to the post office. And then on top of that, an old colleague who also recently left her job is opening a florist. Which she's looking to open on the 2nd of May. No, the 4th of May. She wants to open it on Star Wars Day. But she approached me and basically said, love the key rings, love the cards. Do you want to sell them in my florist? So at the moment, I'm also on top of everything else. I'm making a bunch of new cards. Obviously, I need to make things like sympathy cards, thinking of you cards, get well soon. The kind of thing that you would buy flowers for.
Yeah.
So obviously on top of everything else at the moment, I'm also doing that. But I'm hoping once I get that out of the way and once I sort of have everything set out in front of me and say, okay, relax, breathe, this is the right balance, because obviously I don't want to burn myself out.
No, of course.
And I don't want to sort of just end up crying in the corner, which, I do quite regularly, but it's healthy.
Yeah. It's nice to get it all out.
I'm not crying, there's something in my eyes.
I've always got something in my eye.
Hello, this is Nancy, just in the middle of the episode to say thank you so much for listening so far, and to remind you that if you'd like to be notified of when the new episodes come out every Thursday, you can click the follow, subscribe, notify buttons wherever you're listening to this podcast on, and leave a comment and review so that we can know that you're listening and let us know any feedback that you might have. Also, if you have any suggestions for who you might like to see on the podcast, whether it is a friend of yours or indeed yourself, please let us know. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the episode.
I was hoping to ask you about the key rings that you started doing. So it might have been the first time I came across, it probably wasn't actually, because Nancy probably showed me a load of TikToks from you, but it was the single line drawing with the flowers coming out the sort of the neck of a sweater. That was sort of like my first introduction to your art, and I was there going, that is it's a cool style. I like, aesthetically, that is really pleasing. So I was going through all your stuff, and then of course you've suddenly got this amazing sort of rainbow with fluffy clouds. I was like, oh, that's really cute. And I read it, and I wanted to ask you about, is having some sort of politics and things really important to you in your arts, or because your portfolio, you've got a nice diversity of these very serious topics, and just going back to the lemon thing, is this plain aesthetic lemon that's just very pleasing, and then you've got very strong statements as well scattered around.
I have to say, it kind of came about. It was a bit of a joke, because I was like, I'm not massively political, if I'm totally honest. I don't know if I don't want to lose any sales. No. I'm not the most political person in the world. My family and my partner, I'm very much surrounded by, reasonably strong-minded political people. I come from a very much working class town in the north of England. Anytime I have voted, it's always been Labour, but I don't really get too much into it. It's not that I don't like politics. I just don't like getting into arguments with people, because I'm not clued up enough, if you know what I mean, on the various things. When I was making like the cutesy little stickers, I made this little rainbow with the clouds, and I was like, oh, it's dead cute, but there's just not enough. And then I was like, oh, I should do some calligraphy over the top of it. And
then you just suddenly thought, what three words were?
Well, exactly. I was like messing about, and I just really like writing the F word in like fancy writing. Whenever I'm like,
it's nice to see swear words in
like, it's like whenever I'm
like cross stitching, especially. It's so funny to me.
Whenever I've got art block, I'll just sit there and I will just write it over and over again until I can think of something that I can draw. But yeah, there's something about like cutesy rainbows, and I think in the end it actually kind of worked out quite well in the fact that the rainbow was stolen for the NHS thing over the last year. Stolen from LGBT sort of thing. So in the end I was like, do you know what, I'm gonna use that. And it was, I just put them together and I went, ha, look at this. And then Tom was like, yeah, that works. Tom being my fiance, and so we had the stickers printed. It seems like, I actually saw a TikTok that pointed this out the other day, and it was exactly the same thing I've always been saying, is that every now and then certain someone does something that people don't like or disagree with, and I get a spat of sales. So I'm like, if actually the sticker of this is my best selling item. It's the one thing I've other than the uterus prints. I think they may have overtaken it now. That is my best selling item.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to be, sometimes I think people want to avoid being polarizing and basically not neglecting an audience, but excluding them from what you're doing. But I think this is a good example of basically stating an opinion and finding people that agree with it quite strongly. And that's actually more beneficial than kind of just sitting on the fence sometimes.
Well, I mean, I saw it a lot. I actually saw someone went viral from posting a video basically saying, like, I've seen that I think she was American, and she was like, there's a lot of people commenting on my videos that disagree with my politics, and if you are, and I'm not going to say whatever it was because I actually can't remember and I don't know enough about it. She's like, if you are this, then I don't want you here. Like, if you are on the opposite side of what I am, I don't want you as a follower.
Yeah.
And I mean, not that I'm saying, I'm friends with people who have different political views to me, but they're not always angry about it.
People sometimes forget when you spend a lot of time on the internet anywhere that, well, I was saying this actually because I've been in sort of an echo chamber of things that I like, because obviously I spend time on Instagram, I spend time on TikTok, the algorithm feeds me things I like. And so I kind of end up thinking, wow, the world really is exactly how I believe things are. And then you go out in the
and
world,
then you go outside
and you notice that it's really not. You'll find somebody yelling at somebody else, like, oh, you're wearing this and that, I don't like it. It's like, why do you feel the need to comment? But also when you find your sort of internet community and you can feel the support of it, it's really quite nice.
But yeah, I mean, it was something I ummed and ahed about at first. I was like, oh, do I? And it was funny because I posted it on my Facebook page. I posted saying, I've got these stickers coming out, and pretty much my entire family was like, yes, yeah. Like even my grandparents, when I got a like reaction from my gran, I was like, haha, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Because obviously she's proper. She doesn't swear. Well, she does, but
secretly.
No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. If
she
she ever hears this, no, she does not.
But yeah, like obviously, that's one of the things that's always has driven me through. I think is the not approval, but like the support I've had from my family, because we're a very creative family. My brother's a chef. My mum is a jack of all trades. She literally, like I said, she can do anything. And like a lot of people in my family are sort of artists, and creatives in some way or another. So it's nice to have sort of the support of them, because I always was a bit worried not worried, but kind of like embarrassed isn't really the word either. I don't know what it is, but I was always like, oh, I don't want to post this because someone will see it. And I still have that sort of thing with TikTok, that I've very slowly started to introduce my TikToks to my Instagram reels.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I did it, I don't know if you saw the Hobbycraft haul video I posted the other day. I posted that on Instagram a couple of days later, and the day before I went up to see my parents, obviously we were taking our Christmas presents and everything because we hadn't done Christmas yet. And my dad sent me a message and he was like, oh yeah, just make sure you don't forget the one thing you're supposed to bring. The one thing. And obviously he was quoting me, and I was like, maybe I won't do this again then.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a fine line, I think, between recognizing the support that you get from someone and the acceptance of it, or people advocating what you do. So I'll quite like with a lot of my writing, my creative output, the things I write about are dark and twisted, and they are not for everyone. Sometimes they're not even for me, really. And I know for a fact that I'm not going to have the approval, approval is the word you were using here, of everyone that reads it. But I know I've got the support of XYZ. Nancy being a prime example. A couple of things I've written, she sort of would come out of it and just be like, "That was horrible." Like emotionally draining.
Yeah.
Right, not just really badly written.
Oh no.
Well written, but kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm, you said, but you should put this out there. You should make sure that people get to see this, and it's the support that I get for that, and it's not necessarily the approval of it.
Yeah.
Might not necessarily be my thing, but it's good to put it out there because it is someone's thing, sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And I think to a lot of people listening to this need to realize and try and work out and understand where they're finding this level of approval from people. Is that more important than the support that you're getting?
Yeah,
because not everyone is going to like everything that you do, and in a creative world, in a creative industry, that's just part and parcel.
Yeah, I mean the thing is as well, it's you can't just for a long time I kind of relied on my family's opinions of everything. I mean, time also helps, I think, is like obviously the more you do, the more people see that it sort of helps in a way. I've posted about this before on TikTok. I tried my hand at writing when I was younger, and I remember that my whole family kind of was like, oh, don't do, because my cousin was very into writing, and obviously I was like, well, I want to write as well. So I bought myself a little notebook from Partners and took it up to Scotland with me on my holidays, and was like, I'm going to write a story, and I proceeded to plagiarize Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone completely. And write about Isabel Pitter and her trip to Warthogs and her friend Lagrid and her professor Alan Rickman. And at the time, I remember
that's not even an homage. That's just blatant.
I think I was about 8. It's fine. But yeah, at the time it was I remember not being bullied for it, but everyone being like, "Oh, Isabel, just stop. What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then it's like a family heirloom now. Like whenever it comes out, there are people in my family that remember quotes from it.
That is quite funny.
At that point now, I'm like, do you know what? I'm glad I did that. And it's that in itself has taught me to never regret anything that I do.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if 8-year-old me can write such an amazing novel that finished halfway through a sentence, then
it's a cliffhanger. Okay.
Oh man.
I'm so upset that I didn't write more. And someone said to me, they were like, "Oh, why don't you just try?" I was like, I can't try and write it now because it would not be the same.
No.
I'd be trying way too hard to make it sound the same.
And I think this is another really, really good example of just trying something.
Yeah.
Like this podcast, again, is one of those examples for us. We're giving this a try. We want to see if this ends up being good, but there's no way of telling. Sometimes you have no idea whether or not things are going to end up good. There's another podcast I listen to called Creative Pep Talk, where this guy, Andy J. Pizza, he's fantastic. I love listening to that podcast. So good. But he talks about how he doesn't like the sort of thing that Dory says, which is just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Yeah. Because if you're swimming in the wrong direction, you're going to end up some really random place. So like, for example, if you kept swimming with the writing thing and people were really not responding to it, you'd, probably end up not being as happy, but where you kind of...
And perhaps sued by J.K. Rowling.
Yes. She does seem litigious, actually, so she might go after you. But I think that's really quite interesting. Speaking of sort of trying new things, what inspired you to apply to do illustration as a master's? Just for some context, the previous episode, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a filmmaker, editor, visual effects kind of guy.
Yeah.
And we were both talking about how our experiences of university studying something creative didn't end up being all that useful. But I'm hoping you have a different take on it. So tell me a little bit about that.
And my mum actually asked me the same question when I told her about it. She was like, "Don't take this the wrong way, but why?" I said, well, the thing is, I mean, I always work better in terms of being able to really like bring stuff together when I've got something that helps me focus, i.e. a deadline or a brief or something. Like sometimes I will sit and I'll just stare at a blank page on my iPad or a blank page in a sketchbook and I'll be like, I can't draw. And then I'll just give up for the day. Like the amount of times I've said to my friends or to Tom and like to various people being like, oh, I can't draw, so I'm not going to do it anymore. And they're like, what do you mean you can't draw? And I'm like, no, I don't mean that I can't draw. I just mean that I can't draw right now, And off the sort of when I was looking to quit my old job, I was looking for jobs to see, I was sending portfolios, I was applying for stuff, and I was like, I've got all this work, but apparently that doesn't really matter if you've not got the credentials to back it up. Obviously, unless you are amazing and you have a ton of experience, which I haven't been able to get, because I think I have this little thing in the back of my mind that's like, people see my CV and say, well, she hasn't got any qualifications in illustration. She did photography. So how does that prove that she can draw?
Yeah.
So in a way, part of it is that. And then part of it is just, I don't know much about illustration in the industry other than just drawing for a hobby and then selling my art. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's going to help me become more focused because I really enjoyed my degree.
Yeah.
Like I said, obviously it was slightly different. It was a photography in the arts. But it helped me see that you don't have, like, for 2 years of my photography degree, I didn't take a single photo.
Oh, wow.
I used to go onto eBay, buy other people's photos, sort of photos from the 1920s and such, and then I'd repurpose them. And my entire final major project was I uploaded a photo that I'd found and scanned to Google every day, and then I'd take the first 10 photos that came up on the reverse image search.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
And then my final project, it was basically at that, and then I'd take the little like whatever the writing was, whatever the tiny bit of caption was. And I'd put that into a Word document and I'd put those into a file. And then I had all those printed and then I typewritten, which took hours, every single little bit of information so that it didn't make any sense anymore because it was basically all completely out of context and it was all very strange. And that was my final project. None of those photos I took. And
that's a really cool angle on photography, though. I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. And that was what my dissertation was all about, appropriation and everything like that. Because I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't know what I want to take photos of anymore. And I don't want to just take photos because they look pretty. But I don't think I could have done that. I couldn't have reached that point without sort of having the drive of having the educational bit behind it.
Yeah.
And I think I've got to a point now where I kind of need something. But one of the other things is obviously there's sort of modules around networking and things like that as well. So that hopefully will come quite in handy.
I hope so
because
too,
that's again not something that I know a lot about.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things that I think Regan, the guy who's going to be the episode before this, both of us kind of fell down in that. I think our courses maybe were too broad and explored a little bit of everything too much. So by the end, we knew what we didn't want to do, but then we weren't really helped in that. Now that we know what we like to do, how to do it, which is very odd considering that the entire course is kind of started on the idea that like, oh, I know what I want to do, and so I will do this course to help me. Something like networking would have been so useful because, we were saying that a lot of the people that we know that are working in creative industries in any role usually almost always get that job because they know somebody, which is really unfortunate for those of us who just don't have networking or just being social or speaking to people as a skill, but it's so important.
That is something, that's something I've been aware of forever. It's always been like, it is one of those industries where it helps to know someone. But these days, it's not just that. I think it does happen. And this is why I'm like, trying to be as prolific as I am on TikTok and things like that, because I had Instagram I had for years and years and years, and it just never really did anything. I mean, it's going up again now, like the following and everything, but it doesn't grow the way that TikTok has. And I think there is a difference there that, say, 2,000 followers on TikTok is not really that many for TikTok when it's considered like, compared to everyone else. But for me, I'm like, that's 2,000 people that want to actually pay attention to what I'm doing when they see it. And it does happen that if you keep going and you get out there, then people do see you and you can become something from just being a personality. Like I have found that the thing that gets me noticed more is posting my face and being all like, woohoo, look, I'm so kooky.
Exactly.
Like it's not an act. Like that is, I mean, my mum saw the Hobbycraft video and she was like, she's very, very over dramatic. It's a bit. And I was like, okay, I play it up a little bit, but I think everyone does. I mean, if I was just completely normal in front of the camera, everyone would be like, nah, she's a bit boring.
I think people sometimes struggle with, if they do put on a persona, it becomes something that you have to spend energy on. Especially if, you're like quite quiet, like, oh yeah, I'm going to make a video today. The camera goes on. What's up, everybody? It's me. Like, oh God, that stuff is a little bit too much for me. Every now and then, I'm really into bullet journaling videos, and one of the things that I love is when people are just you can tell they're recording close to the mic, and they're like, "Good morning, it's me. Hi, this is my weekly spread," and
everything is just so breathy.
Oh, you sounded just like Gottmik then.
Thank you. Yes.
That's probably
Gottmik for the win, by the way. I'm throwing that there.
Gorge. Everything's
good.
What was my point? Oh yeah, bullet journaling and like I thought it would be so funny to encounter somebody who does the same sort of genre of video but does it really high energy. And then I saw somebody who literally starts their videos with like, hi, what's up everybody, it's your boy and I'm bullet journaling today, I'm gonna make my video. And I'm like, wow, oh my god, how am I supposed to watch any of this?
This is not the same.
That's kind of a clash, really, you know.
I don't, but I thought I kind of was gonna make something that's like a parody version of bullet journaling videos as high energy stuff, but I'm like, oh damn, it exists. I guess it's not really going to be funny anymore.
Oh, it's the worst, isn't it? When you think you've had you're like, I've had a really good original idea. And then, like 2 days later, TikTok's like, ha ha ha, this came before you.
The
like,
robots see that you've been thinking about this. Well,
exactly. It's like, how much are you in my mind?
I don't really use TikTok. I've got one video on TikTok, which
I made you record.
Which you sort of made me record, because so it's just me messing around on my ukulele, and I just transcribed songs that really should not fit onto ukulele. I'm still at that stage of is that what I'm supposed to do? Is that what people want? It's not about that. It's about I had fun doing it, and it's made people laugh and or think, what's wrong with this guy? You know, got dreadful music taste, but
that is something it took me a while to come to terms with. It wasn't, you know, for a really long time I was getting really, especially at the start of this year, that it went from being like you could post and get loads of views and loads of attention to like all of a sudden at the start of this year you'd post and it would be like, haha, 3 views, and it'd be like, okay. And that obviously had a bit of a, like, it sounds ridiculous to say it, and I have said it in a video before, that it does have an effect on your mental health, and social media does, but I've kind of got to a point now where I'm like, I'm going to post for me. I'm going to try and post, you know, regularly, but I'm not going to be like, oh no, I need to put, it's 3:03. I need to post my next video. Like, you know, I try now to, like, there'll be a few days where like every video I post is me being like, blah, blah, blah. And then every now and then it'll just be like videos of my art, because I'm like, I don't have the energy, or I'm too busy, or I'm not, you know, shut up, you've had enough of my face for a few days, you can deal without me. And it makes people miss me then, and then when I come back everyone's like, hey, she's back.
You're a real person. You can't have every single day and every single moment being that, you know, that way constantly, because outside of posting a video you do have a normal life and the emotions that go with it and the effort involved and the daily life admin and things. And you know, sometimes you're just having a very chill day, you don't want to do it. Other times you are just not in the mood for it because you've had a really, really bad day. I suppose the point I'm getting at is that at the start of the lockdown that we had last year, the first one, I went through a phase where I was posting on my Instagram. I was like, I'm going to post a new poem on there every single day. And I think I got to about 150 odd days in a row.
That's not bad.
And but by the end of it, I was there just going, it's not good enough. I was stressing myself out about it, or it would be,
just posting for the sake of posting, and it might not necessarily be the standard that you want to get out there, sort of thing.
Exactly. And I very quickly found that this is my page for me, about my stuff and my journey. Of course, I want people to read it. You know, I don't care too much about the number of likes and things. You know, of course, if suddenly I get 10,000 likes on something, I'm going to go, how did that happen? What kind of algorithm has gone wrong somewhere?
Yeah, but, I was going to say, every time anything like blows up for me, I'm like, what did I do? I don't understand.
Did I misspell a tag or something? But
people think I'm someone else.
Yes, yeah. But it's I suppose social media is a very easy way for people to promote themselves, get their own personality across and things. But I think it's a very, very slippery slope that you can go down to getting that validation from it and thinking that is
what you need.
It again, it goes back to the approval and the support thing.
The thing is, one of the things I don't want is for the way that I am on social media to change the way I am off social media. Like, I know, I don't ever want to be. I love helping people, and if people want tips and whatever from about anything, I would love to be able to help people. I don't ever want to become one of those people that's like, you know, I've got all these followers and all this attention, and I'm not going to share how I got here or anything like that, because it's taken me, not that I've got, you know, thousands and thousands of followers, but I want to make sure that I am still as down to earth as possible. But I mean,
you're still busy.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things, especially from like when I first started, I remember the first time I posted a video with my face in it, and I was like, "Hi, so this is my face, and I just want to say thank you for all your follows." And Tom watched it, and he was like, "So who's she then?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Who's this girl impersonating you on your TikTok? She sounds nothing like you." And I was like, what do you mean? But it's that I had like that this weird persona on, and then all of a sudden I was like, no, this isn't me, because it was very, very. I was like, I'm pretty sure I wasn't even wearing any yellow, which is just very strange. But now, like, you can see there's such a difference in the way I am now, because I'm like, you can actually hear my real accent when I talk. That was one of the things I was quite worried about with this. I was like, is it gonna be like two different people who are on this podcast? Or I start and I'm like, hello, my name's Izerbelz, and I make art, and I don't know. And then by the end I'll be like, hey, love, how are you doing?
Are there any lessons kind of along the way in terms of what has helped you sort of with your mental health and approach to your art and everything, or social media that you'd like to share with people listening?
I can't really think of a lot other than just don't let yourself get too wrapped up in social media. It's there to help you, not to hinder you. So it shouldn't be something that causes you to have a meltdown. It's something that should be enjoyed. And if it's getting too much, just put it down. With regards to mental health, I mean, it's just about finding what works for you. Obviously it's not all the same for everyone. I find talking and drawing helps me. That might not necessarily help other people. I know some people find it very hard to draw when their mental health is in the bin, but yeah, just that. And when it comes to building your brand, just being yourself, unless you are the most boring person in the world. But no, just being yourself, and sort of, if you're trying to sell a brand, you at the end of the day are that brand. So let people get to know you. That's the best way, I think, to...
For better or for worse, be yourself.
Yeah, that's the words I was looking for.
And then who is there anybody that you look up to, and why do you like them?
Oh, I don't know. Would it be really cheesy to say my mum?
Oh, that's adorable.
No, she is always has been someone I've admired. Like I said, she can literally put her mind to anything. She decides that she's going to try doing something, and off she goes. And I have always admired that about her, and it makes me very jealous. She's primarily someone who is very textile-y and things like that. She's making my wedding dress. I'm not buying one. I've asked her, she's making it for me. So she is very much one of those people who can just kind of do everything and anything. And even if it doesn't work, she'll still try it. And that's definitely something that I am trying to live by.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love my mummy.
Oh, it's so nice that you have such a lovely and supportive family. Oh, yes. Sweet. So, tell us where we can find you and your art and your store and everything else.
Oh, I feel like I need to get a business card out now to actually look. So I'm very confusing because I started off as Izerbelz.art, and I'm just going to say that is how it's said. I get a lot of people saying it wrong. I don't know how or don't know why, but no one seems to really fully understand how to say my business name. But yeah, on Facebook and Instagram, I'm Izerbelz.art, and that's obviously Izerbelz. And then Etsy, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. YouTube and Twitter I don't really use that much, but Etsy and TikTok obviously are probably the two that I use the most. I'm just Izerbelz Art with no dot.
Everyone go and check out Izerbelz Art and go and buy the charity prints, and whilst they're still available.
Oh, they will be restocked as well. I mean, obviously, if they do sell out, they are something that are very special to me. And out of all the things, when I get an order, when I see it's one of those, I get a little tear in my eye. And it's funny, really, because obviously that doesn't make me any money. But I'm like, yay, someone's bought another one. So they are very special to me. So if people do want to check them out, that would make me very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have links in whatever the description is, wherever you're listening to this podcast, to the store and everything else.
Yay.
Izzy, thank you so very, very much for joining us on the Flawed Workshop podcast.
Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed myself.
No, thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah, it's been great chatting with you.
Happy early birthday and good luck with your masters. And I will still be engaging as much as possible with your content on TikTok because I'm waiting for the day that you become viral and a big sensation.
Perfect. I was going to say I will definitely be trying to share as much as I can, as often as I can, but we'll see if I end up again crying in the corner with the amount of stuff I'm going to be doing over the next few months.
You do you.
I will. I always do.
I mean, exactly.
A huge thank you to you, the listener, for making it all the way to the end of this podcast. Once again, also thank you to Izzy from Izerbelz Art for joining us this week. And I would love for you guys to please check out the charity print of the Floral Ovaries and Uterus. All proceeds from it are going to be donated to the Dianne Oxberry Trust, a UK Ovarian Cancer charity. I have been Nancy Art Music. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Nancy Art Music. Alex, where can we find you?
I'm Alex Roberts, and you can find me on Instagram at Alex Roberts Writer, and you can find my first collection of poetry, Empire, on Amazon.